ISOM issue 1 was the worst thing I've read this year. Is ISOM issue 2 better? Let's find out. Hi everybody, and welcome to yet another video, and yet another review video for that matter. My dear friends, if you look at the screen, you shall discover that this video is about ISOM number 2 by Eric July, the very controversial and divisive independent quote-unquote comic book that has been around for a couple of months already from an American comic book creator. And if you've been following my channel for quite some time, you know that I have made a review about issue 1, and that at the end of the said review of issue 1, I said that I would not be back for issue 2 because that book was absolutely bland and boring. It was no different from the bad mainstream comic books of Marvel Comics and some DC Comics as well, although I have to say that DC Comics and other publishers as well, such as Image or even IDW and most certainly Dark Horse, which are all mainstream already, have published a lot of good comic books, and their reviews are out there on my channel under the playlist movie and books recommendations. Please do feel free to check them out. Now, to the matter at hand. Eric July has doubled down on absolutely everything I said in the review of issue 1. And this, issue 2, is no different from any other bad Marvel comic book published today. Now, Eric July stated many times before, because before he published this comic book, he had already been a very well-known and very much followed YouTuber and an influencer. And that is where he got all his followers, and that is where the majority, vast majority, like 99.9% of all his customers, as he keeps calling them, come from. And so he was criticizing the state of the American comic books, and he wasn't really reviewing them, but he was talking about them. And the state of the modern American comic books is, because they are very much different from American comic books, is that the stories are not very well written. They are bland and boring about characters of those said publishers like Marvel and DC, written absolutely out of the character in a bland and boring way. There is there are no stakes. There is very little action. There is very little suspense. Because after all, superhero comic books should be about the action. They should be very well written action pieces with extremely well done art. It is a visual medium. That means that both the writing, the script, and the art and the dialogue should be very good. There should be this sort of work, combination of good artwork and good writing. And also, because American comic books have always been coming out in the form of single issues, floppies as they are called, monthly, bi-monthly, whatever, they should also be self-contained, meaning that, and that was, I believe, what Stan Lee used to say, every comic book is somebody else's first comic book, which means that whatever issue of Spider-Man, let's say, you pick up, this could be your first issue, and you will understand what's going on, who the character is, and you can just continue from that point on. You don't have to go back and search for the previous 200 issues. That is the ideal. In the modern comic book scene, the comic books are written for trade paperbacks, for collected editions. Now, this has been a norm in Europe for a long time. We write and publish for graphic novels, for albums, already longer stories published in usually hardbacks, beautiful bound editions sold in bookshops, no problem. They are not periodicals. But now the Americans are writing in that way that they are writing like 6-issue stories, 6-issue storylines that are then collected in a trade paperback because they sell more than the individual comic book issues. Because who would buy a $5 to $10 comic book about nothing, right? Not very many people. And the artwork, well, no, thank you very much. The artists are underpaid. That has been a very well-known fact. And, well, that is why they are either not doing their best work, or Marvel is, and I am specifically now talking about Marvel because Marvel is the worst nowadays, is just paying for the cheapest and the least skilled artists that they can get. Everything that I have just mentioned is in ISOM issue 2. Now, the biggest problems of the ISOM series so far is that we are not really sure what ISOM is about, what he is striving for, what his mission is. And that is one of the gripes that I had with issue 1, and it just follows in issue 2. I'm going to be repeating myself here because this is no different, this is no better. If anything, it is worse than issue 1, because you would have thought that it would improve in issue 2. When you find out that it actually hasn't improved, you come to the conclusion that the issue 2 is worse. And I'm going to tell you, I couldn't even finish issue 2. And that happens very rarely to me. Now, if I don't finish something, it must be extraordinarily boring. And I just couldn't get to the ending. It was a chore. And I said to myself, hey, listen, you have got very limited time on this precious earth. Why'd you torture yourself doing this? No, I couldn't. And so we need, in a proper comic book, American superhero comic book, we need the hero to be established. We need to know who he is and what he is about. Now, I am not talking about some sort of origins of the superhero. You can keep that mysterious for a couple of issues if you like, Eric. All right, that's fine. But we need to know from the get-go, from the very beginning, the main goals and that which drives him, and the problem that he's going to be dealing with in this series, and his trials and tribulations that he will be going through. We need to know who he is as the superhero, not as his alter ego. You don't have to put it there in first or second issue nowadays. People used to do that in the past. In the first issue, obviously, you read the first issue of Spider-Man. You read the first issue of Batman in Detective Comics. You knew from the get-go who the guy is, what his alter ego is, what he is all about, so on and so forth. And it was then repeated at the beginning of each and every single following issue, so that, as I said in the video already, new readers can pick up from that point. None of it is here. We know nothing about ISOM. We know nothing about the characters. We know basically nothing about the plot. And that is one of my main gripes. Now, I have been a voracious reader of both novels and graphic novels, poetry. I'm a published author myself. I have got some experience with writing and reading, and I couldn't make out what the story is here. It is so convoluted. It is so, and it is not as if it's really not that the story is written so brilliantly in a brilliant, complicated way that you just can't understand it. No. The writing is, and I believe that if Eric July tried, if he practiced his writing, if he followed instructions from more skilled and more experienced writers, if he paid attention to the criticism and what people say, I believe that he could learn to write better. Alas, he hasn't taken enough time to master his writing skills. And so he is all over the place, with writing. He jumps from one place to another. He introduces a character here. He introduces a character there. And then he moves on very quickly. And ISOM himself, in between performing ordinary, simple tasks in his company, he just goes to one organization to another, to one boss of the organization to another. Last issue was about finding a girl that he found in the end. In this issue, we are getting a lot of flashbacks to the past. The first one at a comic con where he defeats a monster and then another superhero perishes or whatever, and then some other monsters attack him, and then he meets another girl that just summons monsters. I mean, I see what you're trying to do, Eric, and I do appreciate the effort that you're trying to make, but you really should have taken more time in order to make a quality comic book. Now, I know that this series has already made a lot of money, but that is largely because of his comic book following and because of the agenda that he's pushing. You know, Marvel hates you, buy my book, we will win, Iron Age. Well, that's all very nice and all, but it is precisely the tactics that the mainstream is using, right? The agenda, pushing the agenda. And there I thought, Eric, that you are going to be different. That you wanted to be everything but the mainstream. And yet, here you are, doing everything that the mainstream is doing. And now, the last thing that we will talk about is the artwork. The artwork is atrocious. I'm sorry. Whereas the story is like meh, bland, the artwork is like downright bad. Why didn't you hire a better artist, Eric? I mean, the artist that you did hire might be your friend, that might have been a favor, but, I mean, is it really worth it to put out a comic book with an absolutely atrocious art? It has been proved in videos of many people that it's mostly like copy-paste and tracing. And there was this huge discussion on the internet about one specific page where there is a truck in front of a castle and the dimensions are absolutely off. And apparently both the truck and the castle are traced. And the backgrounds are, in most cases, just non-existent. Like, why would the artist be bothered with the background? Listen, people. If you want to read good comic books, I've got a couple of recommendations for you. Do go back and get collected editions of older stuff, whatever you are into. Now, there is a plethora to choose from. I'm not going to be recommending Batman to you or whatever, because I don't know what you like. But there are comic books, graphic novels, the visual medium, not the audio, the visual medium. There is a lot to choose from the 70s, the 90s, the 80s, the early 2000s, from the United States of America, from Europe, from Japan. Go back, read old comics. And if you want to read something new, I do have a recommendation. There is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin comic book that came out about a year ago. Absolutely brilliant. There is Batman and the Joker, The Deadly Duo. That is absolutely brilliant by DC Comics. There is Justice League, The Endless Winter. Absolutely brilliant comic book. There is, from a couple of years ago, X-Men, House of X and Powers of 10. Or House of X, Powers of X. The story that followed is atrocious, but this miniseries, the House of X and Powers of 10, brilliant. I do recommend it 100%. The best comic book of 2023, Conan the Barbarian by Jim Zub, published by Titan Comics. Do get it. Absolutely brilliant. There are many things to choose from. Are you into manga? Get Berserk. Get Dragon Ball. Are you into European comics? Get the Meta Barons. Get Asterix. Get whatever. Please do spend your money wisely. Do spend your money on quality, both writing and art. So, Eric, I don't think you're ready for this. But hey, who am I? I'm just an ordinary European fella who has devoted his entire life to the finer things. And this is not a finer thing. Alright then, let me know in the comments down below what you think, my dear friends. And that'll be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here.